Greetings, Earth enthusiasts. If you ever wondered about the incredible perspectives our planet has to offer from high above, you're in the right place. I am Dr. Clive Coetzee, and I'm thrilled to be your guide on this captivating journey into the world of remote sensing. Welcome. And please remember to like, subscribe to, and share this video. Thank you.
We are just about on our way on our journey using our Terra Snow data product. And in a previous video tutorial, we added our DEM, a digital elevation model, and specifically two bands, which is elevation and slope. And we added that to our snow image. And we generated some ideas or some proposals in terms of the relationship between the three. And we tried to put them in one image, etc., etc. So we played around a little bit with combining the snow product and the DEM product. What I want to do in this particular video tutorial is to continue on that trend, still work within the snow and the digital elevation model, but I want to specifically work in a very neat function or neat part of Earth Engine, and that is the dock section. You'll see there dock section. Now, in the dock section, it contains a lot of Earth Engine functions. Okay, it generates a lot of Earth Engine functions using this dock section here. So what we're specifically going to work with is terrain. Okay, and we've already started with terrain. You can see there, that's the function ee.terrain.slope. That's a terrain function that we worked with, and specifically the slope. Now for all of this terrain, so just scroll down until you find EE terrain. Okay, so let's open EE terrain. And you see there's a number of functions here. There's your aspect function, there's your fill minimum, there's your shadow, there's your hillside, there's your products, and there's your slope function. So there's a couple of Earth Engine functions within this docs that we can use now, and we're going to apply some of them and see how that looks. Okay, so that's quite neat. So we can go to the Earth Engine tutorial site. There is the site, and there is these functions already indicated there. And so if you want to see what these functions are all about, you can simply just click on them. But if you click on any one of them, so remember, we used the slope. So let's go to the slope. If we left click on it, you'll see there's a window that opens, and it said it calculates the slopes in degrees from a terrain DEM. Okay, so our terrain DEM in this case is this USGS digital elevation model. So that's our terrain model. Okay, the terrain DEM, that one there. And the band that we're working with is elevation. Okay, so then it tells you how to use it. It's ee.terrain.slope.input, and your input is your band. So the input there is your band, and this is exactly what we've done there. ee.terrain, which is that, dot slope, and then our input from our band from our digital elevation model, which is this one here, and then it generates a slope, and as it says in the window here, it is degrees. Okay, so let's have a look in the manual. We go to terrain, we go to slope, and basically tell you the same thing. It calculates slope in degrees on a terrain, so exactly the same. And there it obviously is a reference code if you want to use it. Okay, and it says the degrees ranges from 0 to 90 degrees. Okay, straight up. Okay, from 0 to straight up, 90 degrees. Okay, so that's what it says. Okay, so that's how we use that. But we want to see some of these others as well. Okay, we want to use some of these others as well. Okay, and what I will also want to do is play around with the color schemes, because it's all the same color, black, blue, and white. So you can't really differentiate between the images that collect. So we need to let's call it jazz it up the color schemes, so that specific features stands out a little bit more than just the normal black, white, and blue colors. So let's look at snow. Let's look at our snow image, and you can see our snow image is, I think we need to make, we can keep the white, but I think the light blue and the dark blue we may need to change a little bit. So let's do the light brown, a more brownish color. Okay, which basically means it is low level. It's very, there's no snow, it's ground. Okay, so the blue might be a little bit confusing. Okay, so let's change this color. So I'm going to go, and remember to find out the colors, I go to any of these parameters here, there's drawing functions, and I click on that until I get to this nut here, and it's, at the moment that color is blue, and I want to have it brown. So let's choose a nice juicy brown, something to this effect. So let's choose that color. So I just copy it there, I press cancel, and I substitute it there. Okay, so let's run it quickly. Oh, well, there it shows. Let's run it quickly and see how it looks now. I'm just gonna take that away. Why did it do this? Okay, so it's got the snow cover now. Okay, so there it looks. Let's take that away. So now it looks something to that effect. So now it's dark. So that doesn't seem to do the trick for me. But now, if I go image visualization, you see it. I need to take the snow cover. It is now. It's using this image visualization parameters here, and I don't want that. I want this image visualization where I added this now, so I need to change it there, do that one there, and let's run it. And take this, unselect the slope. Now it just gives me this. Okay, there it comes, coming through. So why is it giving me? If I take the vector out, why is it doing this now? Snow cover. Okay, so that's now completely overtaken all these other colors, etc., etc. So snow cover vis. So let's go to snow cover vis. Let's change that. Let's say that to 200. Run it again, and let's see. Nope, it's still roughly doing the same thing. Okay, so that doesn't seem to work very well. So let's go back to our original. Okay, there we go. Sorry, I had the region of interest selected. So there you can see that. Okay, so so maybe we must do the brown. Okay, so let's go 500 again, maybe. Okay, so run it again. Okay, so that's still quite a lot of black and some white, so that, and some blue in there. Okay, I think maybe this is something that we can work with. Let's have a look and see if we use the inspector. We click on that bluish button there. Elevation, slope. So there's not going to be much snow there. And that's why it's struggling to load. Let's quickly go to our satellite and kick that off, do that off. And we're going to interested in this particular area here. So let's quickly put the snow cover on there and see what happens. So these sort of colors here, if I do that, snow cover. So these are the lights. So we actually have too much. So maybe what we have to do is bring in a light blue color anyway. So we're gonna go. I'm gonna do this now. Unselect that there and choose a light blue color anyway. So I want to add here So there's my dark blue. So I'm going to add, and I just do those two little signs. I paste my color in, and I do that. So let's have a look and see. Okay, so there's another color scheme in there. Let's see how that looks now. Hopefully, but I think you get the idea is that we're now playing around with the color scheme to make it a little bit visually more appealing. Stuff. This black is quite, it's quite a lot. So maybe what you must do is take this black out. So let's take that out and run it and see what it looks like now. There we go. Okay, that I could be happy with that. Okay, I could be happy with that. Okay, so let's quickly go and do satellite and then take this off, and you can see if I highlight it, you can see these areas of snow roughly around these areas here. If I take it away, it's this particular area there. So if I go inspector, that's difficult. Inspector doesn't work always exactly at the same time. Nope, it doesn't. Come on. So we're going to go snow. And let's make it this big that I can focus in. And we're going to go dark blue. Let's take that pixel there. Yeah, you can see there 33, etc., etc. So the dark blue are the ones with the serious snow. Light blue, light blue, a little bit, brown, virtually zero. Okay, I think maybe we can make the brown a dark brown so that the colors, the bluish stand more out. So let's quickly have a look and see if I can select a dark brown rather than a black. So let's see if this color works a little bit better. Let's see what that looks like. So let's change that. In fact, yeah, okay, so let's change that and run it. I just want to see if I can get the colors to pop out a little. There we go. There it looks a little bit better. Okay, anyway, and save. Okay, so the brown is obviously where there's little snow, where there's really fairly flat land, where there's low elevation, and the slope is fairly flat. Okay, so that seems to be, okay, so that's our snow one. Now let's go and look at our elevation. There's our elevation. And what we want to do with our elevation is see if we can do, let's leave it for now. What we can do, if interestingly enough, we can click on this button here, and we can decrease the transparency of it, and you can see there it looks, how that looks. And now what is obviously here, if we close it, you can see, if I take this away, elevation, there's our elevation, and there's our snow. So you can see there's an overlap around this area of the two. So you can clearly see that. So I can always play around a little bit with our transparency. And that should do quite a nice trick as well, because what we said is, and again, what we maybe want to do is, let's see our elevation. Let's make this one a green color. Let's see if it will take green. If I type in green, let's see if that will work. And so we make the elevation green, yes. And let's say we make it red. Let's see the high peak points we make red. Let's see if that works. Yes. So green is low areas and red is peak. And so we can overlay it now. And let's say we take the elevation and we make it more transparent. And you can see the red and the snow. And that looks quite appealing, I think, if I have to say it myself. That looked quite nice. And now it's very clear that the red areas, which is the high peaks, high elevation, is located with the dark blue colors, which is the snow areas. And let's see if we can do the same with slope. So let me maybe make the slope. Let's make the slope also quite an interesting color. Let's make it pink, and let's make this one yellow. Okay, let's see what that looks like. Okay, so let's quickly look at the slope and see what that. So there's the slope one. That's too much yellow and too little pink. So let's make this one gray, and then make this one pink. We can play around with the pink colors. Let's keep them both pink and see what happens there. Okay, so that's something there. So now we can overlay that with elevation. And remember, our elevation is okay, so let's keep that. Let's make our slope. Let's decrease the increase the transparency with the slope, and voila. Okay, but what we want to do is overlay this with snow cover. Okay, so it's a little bit more tricky to see here, because the color schemes again are fairly similar. So what we have to do is use the same color scheme as with elevation. Use this here and see how that looks. And what we're going to do, obviously, is to decrease the transparency of that one there and see what that looks like. Not the red doesn't come through, it's too many. So let's make that red as well. So maybe run it again. So let's see how that looks. Anyway, I think you get the idea. So that's too many of this blue color. So let's decrease this to 10. Run it again. There we go. Okay, that's maybe a little too much red now. So let's make it 50. Run it. There's a little bit red there. Okay, so that looks okay. So that's our slope. Now remember, if I go here and I slope, select how you can see. Let's go the slope areas, red. Let's go red areas. Red areas are areas with quite a slope. Now let's go to green areas. Green areas are areas with very little slope. Okay, and little slope is quite low elevation. High slope, high elevation, high snow. Okay, so now we've played. Remember to save. Okay, so remember to save. Okay, so that's one thing that I wanted to quickly just show you, is that we can play around with the colors to make our image much more appealing, so that we can highlight features. And playing around with the color scheme and the transparency options allows you to overlay these images so that these features becomes more apparent in a cumulative sense rather than as singular images or singular features. So that's quite neat, and something quite interesting, and I think something quite useful. Now, going back to our EE terrain option, we can again play around with our functions here. We can play around with our functions around this particular point. But I think I think we've spent quite a bit of time now on these images, and specifically the color scheme or the visualization, that we may, I think, pause the video here or stop the video here, or and then keep these terrain options for a dedicated video, because there's quite a bit of them to go through. So maybe what we can do now is to if we highlight all of them, now we can make them all, let's say we put this one at 50%, apply. And then let's say we take the slope and we put that at 25% and apply. And let's see what the resulting video looks like. And we close it. And you can sort of see the dark blue areas is where there's likely snow. Okay, so these typical areas here, these dark blue areas here are the typical snow, and you can see where that's red, where it's dark red is where it's very high elevation, high above sea level, and there where there's a very steep slope. And so this seems to be fairly clear from this particular color scheme. And if we change the transparency parameters. So what we can further do is, let's say if we can go to the snow, because we've kept that color scheme the same. You can see that there's the brown, etc., etc. And let's quickly see if we stretch this. Let's see what happens to our. Okay, there it actually looks even better if we stretch it a bit. So let's go to that, stretch 2, let's apply that. And see what that looks. I would think the previous one were a better option. Let's stretch it like that. Now that is also, I think, okay, let's go 90%. And what we're doing is we're just playing around with the ranges. You'll see choosing each of these methods just change the range between the minimum and the maximum. So that's all we do. You can see that 90% is 36 and 328. If we do 98%, that will increase and that will decrease and increase. And we just press apply. And you see that that's how that looks. But let's go 100%. Then we go back to our original color schemes. Basically, that doesn't look too bad. Let's go to stretch. I think this is quite a better option to do. You can clearly see the relationship or the overlay between high snowfall, high elevation, and high steep. That's evident to see in this image, and specifically how we overlay. Now you can play around with, with each image. You can play around with its transparency. But let's see if we play around with each stretching and see what that looks like. Okay, so that looks, so that's a different way of presenting it. It brings in more brownish colors. Let's do that, stretch that one. That's also quite neat. If we go, let's say 98%. That's basically the same. So so that looks quite neat. So you can then play around with each individual one's color schemes. And again, you can play around with the transparency. I think we had 25% transparency there. Okay, so that's quite neat. And then obviously we can, the elevation one, let's see what that looks like if we play around with that. Ooh, that's a little bit overpowering. That takes away, let's take 98%. That takes away the whole thing. Okay, that looks quite nice. Okay, let's leave it for this. Okay. You understand, we can go on and on and on. This is a never-ending story, so to speak. But that looks, I think, in my mind, that looks quite appetizing and quite neat. And it actually tells a very interesting story, not a surprising story, an interesting story. And that's now nice to actually be able to combine 3 different variables or 3 different characteristics of my region of interest, and I add them into one, or seemingly one image. Now, obviously, we can, in QGIS, for example, we can add these 3 bands together and we can create a virtual raster. Okay, but this is basically what we've done here. This is a virtual raster. Okay, and with 3 bands: snow cover band, elevation, and slope. And that's typically a raster that we're creating here, singular raster image that we're creating from 3 different bands. And we can add more bands to this, obviously. So I think this looks quite neat. It gives a nice, interesting picture. And as I said, it sort of, if you unhide this, it sort of perfectly matches the satellite image in that it basically snows. So let's say, for example, so there's my snow cover, there's my elevation, And there's my slope. So if I delete these two, you can see there the slope image by itself. You can see there's the elevation image by itself. And if we add the snow one, that's the image by itself as well. And you can see again, we're back to the whites where it's quite a lot of snow, and that overlays with these areas here. So that's quite, I think, yeah, nicely done. I'm happy with that. I think this works. And I said, now you can't obviously export this image per se. You can export the individual images, let's say to your GIS program, and from there you can do a virtual raster, and you can do this basically in QGIS by creating a virtual raster and using the same parameters. There we go. As I said, I wanted to touch on these functions, but let's park these functions for now. We'll get back to these functions where in our next video tutorial. Yeah, let's do that. We go back to those functions because there's a couple of interesting things that we can do. And basically, we're still just focusing on snow and looking at characteristics around snow within my region of interest. Great stuff. Okay. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Boys and girls, much appreciated. Thanks for joining me on this journey. It's fascinating work. I think it's interesting, and hope to have you on board for the next set of video tutorials for our journey, because our journey continues. And remember, please subscribe, and share and like. Press that buttons, any buttons, as long as you press those buttons. And good luck, and I'll see you on the other side.